ahead and get started. Today is November 16th, 2022. It is 9:08 and it is Wednesday, and I'm going to go ahead and start our Utah Lake Authority board meeting. We'll have a inspirational thought, and then Mayor Johnson will lead us in a pledge of allegiance. You want to give it?
Yes. So I had lots of time to think about this thought. Over the last couple of weeks, it has been really fascinating just to have an opportunity to sit down with not only some of the leadership in the state. We had a chance to sit down with the governor and the Senate president and the Speaker of the House. But we've also been able to do some outreach to some other groups around the valley that have an influence on or a connection with Utah Lake. And it has been really exciting to kind of have this experience where people have an opportunity to talk about their connection to the lake and to kind of give us feedback on what they would like to see. And I suppose my thought would be that I'm encouraged that we have an opportunity here before us as this board to do some really neat things going forward, and that as we take the opportunity to bring in lots of ideas and voices, that we'll be able to do something really amazing. So I'll leave that.
Everybody will stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are still in this situation where we have a microphone in the middle of the room. And so if all of you could remember to speak loudly so that anybody online can hear us a little bit better than they did last time, that would be very helpful. Just to echo what Eric was saying, we did get to meet with leadership. We got to meet with the governor, and we got to meet with the speaker and the president, and it was a really good meeting. They're very excited about our management plan that we'll hear more today, and our goals, and just the collaboration and how we've been able to come together and really see a lot of coalition building between all of us to have a really good vision for the lake. So that's exciting. Isaac, you were there with us. I don't know if you have any words you want to share about our meeting with the governor. Or...
Just impressive that he would spend a full hour with us and just, talk through a variety of issues and hear his pledge of support to do big things when they're the right big things, even if they're tough. And it was a great meeting. And Director Ferry, who's on this board, was there and had great input as well. It was a really productive, in-depth meeting. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and as those things come forward, just different funding mechanisms, different steps, Eric will make sure to relay them all to the board and let you know how those conversations are going. So thank you, Isaac. It was really great. And I feel like we're off to a good start. Director Mackey, you're going to give us an update on the ARPA grant status. Yes?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor.
Great.
I have just a few slides. Same all the words up. Yes. See them. Just sort of brief.
Same can start with just the wrong one.
That's not the right one.
I apologize.
Can I do your slide?
You're like, hold on a second. I'm not prepared to speak. There we go.
Okay. Well, good morning. I'll be brief. I just have a few slides, just an update on where we are. Sam, if we can have the next slide.
Yeah.
As we all know, the legislature authorized $30 million in ARPA funds. Oh, thank you. Toward water quality improvements on the lake. The general areas where we have considered for directing those funds, include infrastructure for wastewater treatment facilities, agriculture, improvements, in-lake improvements, as well as other aspects like stormwater and outreach and education. So just sort of in summary, the 6 major areas Here are the amounts of funding requests that we received. So ag non-point source, 5.2 million. In-lake water quality improvements, 8.2 million. Non-point source information and education, 500,000. These are rounded, so there's a little bit of change going around. Stormwater best management practices, 400,000. Stormwater treatment, 600,000, and wastewater reclamation upgrades, $45 million in requests. So just some statistics on the applications. We received a total of 33 applications. $60.2 million were requested, and that would support $331 million in projects. That means that $272 million matching funds are being proposed by the applicants. And just to sort of break those out a little bit, the biggest group of requests came from the reclamation facilities, the wastewater treatment plants, with a total request of 45 million and a total project investment 300 million. So the next steps, currently we're in subject matter review. That subject matter review from a number of different disciplines, agriculture, water quality, so forth. Those reviews are set to be completed next Monday, which is the 21st. And the package of prioritized projects will be delivered to the executive committee, which is Senator McKell, Director Ferry, and Director Shelley from water quality or from environmental quality. And they have a couple weeks to do their review, and they have a tough job. They'll receive, projects with priority ranking, but they'll have to sort out the money on this, the projects that they're going to award and the money, because as you can see, with $331 million worth of requests, not everybody's going to be able to get everything they want. And our expectation is that the award notifications will be on December 14th.
Do they have full discretion on how they appropriate those dollars? Can they appropriate partial dollars, full dollars?
It's at their discretion. And that is my update. Other questions?
No, just thank you for me. You guys have done such an efficient job at this, and I'll just echo, the governor was really excited at how you guys are running this and facilitating it, so we appreciate it.
Happy to hear that. Well, the review panel is very busy right now, and they're very organized. There are other data. I had thought about bringing sort of the full list of all the projects and individual asks, and I just didn't want to put a spreadsheet on the screen. But if you'd like some additional information about the projects, I'm happy.
Another quick question of the 6 categories, just certain, obviously one category had a much bigger pot of the pie they're asking for. Are you going to be, how is the team looking at dispersing across those 6 categories somewhat equally as much as they can, or any thoughts there?
Yeah, well, so the prioritization system is set to be relatively standardized to try and compare things on an apples and apples basis. That's really hard. It's really hard to compare the relative benefits of a wastewater treatment plant, major improvement, whatever that is, adding equipment, versus an education program. I think overall we'll have one priority list. But they're identified within categories so that the executive committee will be able to understand the categories of each of these projects. So, but it's really kind of up to them to make a decision, and I think everybody has advice and ways to do that. Fairness, for example, or how do you distribute money? You could distribute it all to one project, or you distribute it to individual, or you spread it around, right? And one of the things that that we think is some of these projects just won't be funded without this support. Whereas others, in some projects, just there's no revenue to support some of these types of projects. Whereas other projects, wastewater treatment plants being a good example, they do have revenue, they do have the ability to find other funds. So, and that's the sort of thing that the executive needs to sort out. They will see all the ranking criteria, and when you rank these things, there is a bit of subjectivity, right? Is it good or is it bad? Is it a 1 or is it a 2? Right? And so they'll have all that information as well as notes about it. So, but they do have a big job. We help and say, here's the top ranked projects, and they'll have to figure out how to draw a line.
That's great. Any other questions? No? All right, then we will move on to our executive director's reports.
Thank you. I won't need that. So I've got a handout here that is attached to the back of your agenda. As part of our statutory requirements laid out in HB 232, once a year we give a presentation to the legislature. So this presentation took place yesterday to the Executive Appropriations Subcommittee. And we wanted to just give them an update on where we were as an entity. So kind of walk them through where we are. We've got a branding RFP that's out that will help us kind of pull together what Jacobs, who you'll meet here in a second, will help us with as we just pull together our vision and mission. And we can incorporate that into our branding going forward. We also need branding just for the day-to-day, for our letterhead, for a logo and things like that. So we've got the scope as far as that is concerned. They'll do a brand assessment, a brand discovery document. They'll give us a creative brief. They'll pull up some mood boards so we can kind of identify what that logo could look like. Sam couldn't be more excited. He's wanted us to change our logo for a long time. And so we'll get him involved in that as well. And then we'll kind of finalize it with our brand messaging, a style guide, and then kind of have a packet that we utilize for all of our communications going forward. So kind of a one-off type thing, but a really important one that we'll be working on. We talk about at a recent meeting, which meeting was it? It could have been the Growth and Prosperity Summit. Representative Brammer mentioned something that I really liked, and it was that we need to view Utah Lake as a feature, not as a detriment or anything else that potentially has had the connotation of over time, but rather think of it as a feature, and everything that we do is really kind of pinpointing that feature that it is here in the valley. And so we're going to start working a lot on public access points and connections with the lake. Look at finalizing the water quality study with the Division of Water Quality and looking for ways to implement the ideas that come out of that study. There's a long list of implementation criteria or framework that can be implemented prior to the 2030 regulatory one. And that gives us a ton of opportunities to enhance our non-point sources. So stormwater systems and the ag VIP program is getting up and running, and that can really allow us to work with some of the south and western sides of the lake where we've got agricultural returns. But really just kind of focus on improving the water quality. And then we have opportunities for economic development and recreation, and there's a ton of opportunity on the lake. It is greatly underutilized right now, but there are distinct recreational groups across the board that are enjoying the lake, and really it's enhancing those activities to the point where the word spreads quicker and those groups grow, and we get more wind or kite boarders and more wakeboarders and more birders. There's just this host of cool activities happening down there, but it's hard to get everybody as excited as we are about this. So we'll be working on those. There's potential legislation that we're working with Representative Brammer and Senator McKell and others. We want to make sure that over the next little while, we focus on our more primitive access points. There's 22 of those right now around the lake, and there's a lot that can be done at those. For the most part, most of those are a gravel road access with very little extra amenities. So we would focus on adding trees for shade in those areas, enhancing the roads, adding fencing so that we can kind of curb good or create good behavior, add signage, and then potentially update facilities at some of those. John, Director Mackey talked about our ARPA funding, and we gave a brief update on that. And we've got updates happening at most of our marinas right now, and we'd like to continue seeing those and making our marinas really attractive destination type parks in addition to boat launches. And then we also identified a couple of these major projects that we're working on now that the Lake Authority will most likely adopt and be part of kind of our first 5 years of implementation. So the building of a nature and research center and developing the partnerships with universities to make sure that that is well utilized and kind of an attractive feature for our youth. The busier that research center is, the more interesting it is, and we can get fourth graders out there and they can see what's being analyzed and evaluated and studied, and it helps this upcoming generation kind of find the intrigue and fascination with the sciences of water quality and restoration and that type of thing. And we have great support on that project. So we have a site and we have legislators and universities that are very interested in having this down on the lake. And so over the next, at this upcoming legislative session, there will be a push for funding on this. And if it can't happen this session, it will likely happen in one of the nearby ones in the next year or two. We would love to see the trail system to the Powell Slough completed. We have funding in place. That should be the hard part, but setting up the mitigation and permitting for developing trail systems in an area like that is a challenge. It's a hurdle. So that's one of our goals, is to get that trail system completed and the amenities that are associated with that. We're working to develop a conservation wetland area down in Provo Bay. That will be Provo Bay is critical as it is an enormous wetland there. It's approximately 4,500 acres in size. It has its own set of impairments as per the evaluation that comes out of the Division of Water Quality. And the development of wetlands in there that are highly functional can be a huge benefit. We have a researcher that maybe most of you know, Dr. Richards, who has long been an expert on mollusks, among other things. And it's our hope that we can utilize this wetland area to be a pilot for the reintroduction of some of the desirable and native mollusks of the lake that historically did a phenomenal job of filtering the water. At some point, they either got overwhelmed because of the turbidity caused by carp, or something else changed, maybe the pH changed or something. That it's not clear why they left, but we know that there's lots of those same species in other water bodies around the state that could be collected and introduced into Utah Lake. So that's an interesting opportunity.
And if you ever want, he'll come and show you all the shells.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's really
He's
fascinating.
passionate about
Yeah.
them, and he's long talked about them, and this is another one of those scenarios where you just assume that, oh, they're doing their thing and everyone's kind of doing their part. And when we called and said, hey, we should, how come we haven't tried reintroducing these? Like, I thought you'd never ask. We should. Oh, and so it'll be fun to kind of see that at a pilot scale and see if it's successful and see if we can get them to be more successful around the lake. It's a natural and more sustainable restoration of our water quality, which we have options, but we need as many as we can. And lastly, our revitalization of our marinas. We've got dollars on the table for 3 marinas and the Vineyard Shoreline, and all 4 of those projects are moving along. This last summer, the Linden Marina utilized their dollars that were granted through Forestry's state appropriation. And that marina is looking much nicer. They resurfaced their parking lot. And we're excited to see these other marinas. The South Saratoga Springs Marina is looking awesome, fully under construction. The North Marina, the brand new one, is getting started. So they've finished their engineering. I think that they have their permits in place. I'm not sure. But that one will be another really amazing marina that will complement the nature center site. So with that, I won't go too much into the management planning, as we have our new consultant here, Jacobs Engineering, that will kind of give us an introduction to that effort. But that was the update that we gave to the Executive Appropriations Committee yesterday. And it's exciting to kind of have things moving forward. But one other thing that I would mention is that, and I don't have my right here. On here, one of the things that we've desperately needed is an assistant attorney general to kind of help us. We've got lots and lots of documents that are being developed and contracts that are being entered. So we've needed this assistant attorney general that is part of the legislation, as part of the fiscal note for our creation. And we just heard on Monday that the assistant attorney general that we met and interviewed has agreed to sign on with the Lake Authority as a part-time assistant attorney general. Her name's Paula Faber. We need the last name. It's Faer. So she might correct us on her pronunciation, but really neat lady. She's coming from Doppel, Division of Professional Licensing, and is fascinated by the opportunity to work in the natural resources sector, and has lots of good experience in finance and in some of the other operations of a state agency. So she'll bring lots of good resource to us, is very familiar with public meetings and ACT and grandma and things like that. So it'd be great to have her on. We expect her to start sometime in early December. So, yeah. What's that? Oh, at our next meeting, just wanted to let you know, we're going to go overhaul our Utah Lake Commission office procedures book. This kind of goes through all of our standard operating procedures. So how we deal with finance, accounting, purchasing, public meetings, and it'll just be an updated version so that it's sort of a supplement to bylaws, not as official as bylaws, but something that acts as a really helpful guide to us as staff of the Lake Authority. And so we'll bring a pile of documents at our upcoming meeting that can be approved or edited and then approved, so that we have that direction.
Great. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to our consent items, and these are our minutes and our schedule. We just need to go around because it looks like there's a resolution. Just say your name and your vote in favor. Well, after we do the motion, but just to give you idea of what we need to do. So I just need a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
One second. Second. And Professor Hungerford, we'll just start with you. So say your name and tone.
Okay, my name's Hillary Hungerford and I vote yes.
Okay.
Then start, and I vote yes.
John Mackey, yes.
Carolyn Leonard, yes.
Julie Palmer, yes?
Mayor Johnson, yes. Curtis Blair, yes.
Isaac Paxman, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll now hear from Jacobs Engineering, who's working on our management planning. And David and Kayla are here, right? Dave? Come on up to the podium if you want to. See you.
Yeah, I've got it right up here for you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And just wanted to express from the Jacobs team that I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all on what we think is a really exciting and important project of the comprehensive management plan for Utah Lake. Just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of introduce the project to you all, more or less introduce ourselves and set the stage for developing the plan and what we see as the initial steps and some of the initial engagement that we're hoping to have with you all and actually for what we are looking at on the planning team that would really engage with us on setting the vision and the actual goals and objectives to be addressed in the plan. So more than anything, wanted to kind of put in front of you again kind of the schedule for the project and have you thinking about what maybe that means for you all in terms of your dedicating some time and engagement into the process. So just to start, wanted to introduce our team a little, mostly project management team. So again, my name is Dave Epstein. I'm a watershed scientist and I've been working in the realm of water resources and watershed science for roughly the past 15 years. Been doing kind of water resources consulting in Utah for the past 6.5 years, and have some experience with Utah Lake. I got to work as part of the facilitation team for that Utah Lake water quality study for the first 3 years in 2017, 2020. So again, I'll be the project manager for the Jacobs team and working closely with Utah Lake Authority and with our deputy project manager, Kayla Worthing, who's here today. Give it a moment. So.
Sure. Thanks everyone again for the opportunity. It's nice to meet everyone and be over here today. As Dave said, I'll be supporting the project as the deputy project manager and acting as a coordinator from the mission that this team provides us and coordinating with our internal team in the teams. And Dave's going to get into the org chart there a little bit to go over our project team. A little bit about me. I also have a background in water quality and watershed planning. I've been doing this work roughly for about 12 years. 4 of those years in consulting, and then prior to that, I actually worked at the Division of Water Quality. So nice to see some familiar faces here today. As the deputy project manager, I'll be helping Dave in kind of all aspects of project management and supporting a lot with the internal team coordination.
Thanks, Kayla. So just kind of put in front of you a little bit about our team. We developed a team that we're really excited about based on experience with planning, management planning, and then also a team that's familiar with Utah Lake. Some expertise related to the water quality in the lake. And so we have kind of shown here, again, the project management team, Kayla and myself working closely with you all and kind of the liaisons between the client and our Jacobs team. And then we have this series of subject matter experts who will really lead some of the visioning and planning and developing of solutions based on the objectives that you all come up with for the management plan. And then we have kind of what we call a project delivery team that we'll work under those subject matter experts and they'll kind of flesh out both content and also that make an attractive and functional plan. So that's a little bit about our team. Talk a little bit about the scope of work. This little graphic kind of shows what we see as the main tasks that we need to go through to end up with the final comprehensive management plan. And today, really kind of want to focus on some of the initial steps there, and again, some of the engagement that we're hoping to have from you all. So starting with the project kickoff meetings, or where we go over the details of the work plan, the scope of work, and discuss the critical success factors that you all envision for what it means to end up with a successful comprehensive management plan. We envision working closely with a planning team, which I think I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. Really could be this group, but could be a subset of you all, could be other individuals representing some of your organization, but really that planning team being critical in developing the vision and the actual goals and objectives of the plan, and really, putting some time into meeting with us in a couple of workshops. So following our kickoff meeting, we envision a couple of workshops, a vision and mission statement workshop, and then allowing some time for us to do a review of existing management projects happening on the lake, do a breakout analysis, and from that, second workshop focused on goals and objectives for the plan. So those are kind of the initial steps, and that would really get us to the place where we can put together that conceptual management plan. It's really the first big deliverable. It's, I think, a really important step for this group to be able to move forward with actually taking action and doing some management of the lake. So a little more, I guess, about that planning team, and really, I think the goal here is to get you thinking about what that looks like, and maybe confirm whether you would be a part of that and be willing to serve in that role. It's really intended to represent kind of a broad range of stakeholder interests and yes, perspectives on the lake and the watershed. And so this group, I think, needs to be potentially large enough to provide that breadth of perspectives and interest, but also manageable size where it can fairly efficiently work together through some targeted workshops and come to a consensus. So some of the roles and responsibilities would be, to participate in those workshops and help really direct the development of the plan. Help us obtain existing information, data, and then provide timely review and input on interim deliverables and work products associated with the development plan. So given the tight schedule we're going to be working on to develop that conceptual plan, we hope that this group could prioritize their availability and be able to be responsive to us. So yes, just to flag what that looks like in terms of schedule. We would envision having that kickoff meeting in the next couple of weeks by the end of November, which would set us kind of off and running and to put together that plan team. Once we know that planning team is schedule that first workshop, which workshop number one will be held ideally by mid-December. And then kind of in the late December, January timeframe, we'll be working on that gap analysis and to set the stage for that second workshop to be held by sometime by the end of January. I guess looking forward there, we have this kind of deadline to by the 1st of April to have a conceptual plan together. And we would envision one additional meeting in the planning team before that deadline in the March timeframe. Then once we're able to have that, complete that conceptual plan and put that out to review, we would then kind of have maybe a little more breathing room and be able to slow down the schedule a little. But looking forward to kind of through the summer months towards developing a draft fully fleshed out plan by August 1st, having a month public comment period, and then a completion date of the final plan. This could be so much extra. This is could be discussed, but how that completed by the end of the fall there at the end of October. So I think really just wanted to, that's what we wanted to do, just kind of remind you of what this maybe looks like and how you're thinking about what it looks like for your involvement in building this into your schedule. So now that's really all happened. I'm sure if there's any questions or anything else you guys want to discuss related to our project.
Thank you, Eric.
I just wanted to point out, I can't remember if I made it clear or not to our board. But we have a statutory requirement to have our conceptual plan adopted by April 1st. This is why we're pushing them for this hard deadline to have that completed and adopted and distributed as part of our legislation. So that's our big push, is to complete that so that we can meet that requirement and transfer all of our operations into the Lake Authority. I think that we'll get a really awesome conceptual plan and kind of outline all of the things that we're hoping to do and hoping to accomplish. But that we'll get quite a few months after that to really flesh those out and understand how to best carry those ideas forward. So we don't necessarily need to understand all of the detail of how we're going to make those things happen up front. We just need to be able to prioritize what we would like to do, get their consulting expertise on what our options are, and we can kind of nail all of those down into that conceptual plan, and then we can really get to work and understand. We'll get Dr. Hungerford to come and tell us how we make these things happen. And we can kind of breathe a little easier after that as we kind of outline those. But
Would you like us to come up with a date for a board work session that we can all get input on, and then we submit names of people who are interested in serving on the steering committee? Or how did you want to formulate the steering committee? Is it 9 people and you're looking for like 3 of us, or what are you hoping?
It's a good question. Definitely, I think it's open to how many people it really would include. I would envision larger group than 3 people, maybe something similar to the size of the group here today. But it could be open. We will be interested in discussing.
Like more, so my thought was you probably want like 9 people, but are you thinking some of us from here and then we'll get some people from outside of here, or all 9 from our board?
Sam and I've talked a lot about this and trying to figure out how big or how small. And ultimately, I think the best idea was every board member has the opportunity to participate and or have a representative participating that's, if you've got somebody that's really kind of keyed into either management planning or Utah Lake specifically, that could be a good person to sit in your spot as a backup if you don't have time, because we do want to utilize our opportunity to work with our consultant, and that'll take some time. So
Okay, so it looks like what we need to do is schedule a date for basically our steering committee of who's going to be there. So it's our board work session, and anybody that wants to attend can be there. We hope for some kind of representation from all of us. So.
And it doesn't, I guess the last thing I would add is it does not need to be a quorum.
Okay.
So we won't have that requirement, but we will be public noticing these meetings just in case there is a quorum present.
Good.
But we just want a good group of individuals to kind of help guide this along. So
When is our next meeting? in particular?
ours is not until
January.
And you were hoping for the week of December 14th.
No, November, correct?
We're hoping to have a kickoff meeting with you all in the next 2 weeks if possible.
So first week of December, because it's Thanksgiving. Isaac, did you have something to say?
I just thought it'd be helpful if we're taking away an assignment to either have the board member come or. Can we summarize again real briefly that time commitment you alluded to? Is it like 5 3-hour blocks or is it more than that? Or can you just encapsulate it a little bit more for us?
Sure, yeah, so I think for this kickoff meeting, we're talking about probably a 2-hour block.
Okay.
And then for each of these workshops, looking at maybe half day, for 2 4-day, 4-hour blocks that we've kind of scoped for, some contingency if, we don't get to the place we need to be in terms of consensus on that vision for the goals and objectives in the plan that could still go into the second, 2 to 4 hour meeting. But the hope would be that we do 2 to 4 hour workshops. In addition to that, where kind of the main thing we like is just the ability to put time and target an hour this into reviewing draft content and the responses to.
So emails coming to, they can kind of say, hey,
Yeah.
respond to this, respond to that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we're looking at the first week of December. They're hoping for us to set a date. Is there a time that you're recommending? It appears Wednesdays has been the best for this board so far, so we could stick to a Wednesday timeframe.
Or you, third meeting, the last week, the third.
The
Is that
first
a
week,
possibility to push that out to the week of the 30th of November?
The sooner we can get them started, the better.
that
Yeah.
works for me.
well, board really, it's up to you, so
30th.
November 30th,
November.
Wednesday,
At 9
9 AM,
mornings for 2 hours.
2 hours.
Would it be possible to move that to 10? I think there's a Bocarly working group meeting that morning. It would be convenient to do it right after.
Oh, what time is that?
It's from 9 to 10.
Okay, so just 10 AM, 10 to 12.
On November 30th.
Mhm.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, where should we meet, Aaron? Do you have a place in mind?
We'll send out
Okay.
a meeting location to the group. It'll probably be here, but
Do you need us to make a motion or anything, or just, that's the date, we're all agreeing?
I think we could just agree to it, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any further questions for Dave?
Should we pick the workshop date while we're at it?
That'd be nice.
Sure.
Get it on the calendar.
Yeah,
I'm gonna want to wait to pick the workshop date because at the kickoff is when we'll really have finalized the attendees and composition of that planning team. So it could be beneficial to just wait and see who is going to be on that planning team, to make sure they're available that week. Additionally, I guess we could, reserve a placeholder and then adjust its meeting just. schedule some blocks.
okay, does that work for everybody? We'll hold until that time. Okay, thank you so much.
So 10 AM,
Mhm,
landed on, yeah.
for 2 hours on the 30th.
Zoom on that night. We will have a Zoom link to it, yes. I can recap.
What do they call that?
The planning kickoff meeting.
Planning control.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move to our action items. And Eric, I'll have you introduce the ratification of the leadership election.
Oh, yeah. So at our last meeting, we recognized that our bylaws had requested that we hold an election on our very first meeting. And that we didn't adopt our bylaws at that very first meeting because of timing issues, we got them at the very last second. We wanted to make sure the board had a chance to review those. So at our last meeting, we received the advice to go talk with our assistant attorney general. We did that, and it seemed appropriate to our assistant attorney general that we ratify the vote that was held on our very first board meeting. And given that it aligned with the accepted bylaws, that our election process didn't change, that seemed like the most appropriate step forward. And so we wanted to get a motion to just ratify the election that took place at our July
Great.
board meeting.
Any questions? Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bylaws
Thank you. In a
And
second,
the election.
and elections, sorry.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. It looks like we did talk about some of the ongoing projects from the Utah Lake Commission, and we're just asking if the board would like to adopt these projects and take them into the ULA. We've got funding. Eric went through them. If you need to review them again, they are in this little handout. They're all stated right here. If you have any questions, we can discuss them right now. Otherwise, we just need a motion to adopt them.
I motion,
Any question?
Who's-
Okay,
motion to adopt the ongoing projects of Utah Lake.
great. And can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is now time for our public comments. There are 2 minutes available for public comments. If you have a comment, please come to this podium up here, state your name and make your comment. Okay, looks like we don't have any public comments, so I just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Excellent. Thank you all for being here.